Hi everyone, I'm Steve. I'm one of RUSU's professional advocacy staff, and I've been asked to make this video to talk to you a bit about how to successfully make an appeal. But before I start with that, RUSU acknowledges the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded land we conduct the business of the university. RMIT University Student Union respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders past and present. And we also acknowledge the traditional custodians and their ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business. Now, RUSU's student-led and student-focused. We're here to help you, but we don't make decisions for the university. Okay? RMIT has processes which allow students to appeal grades for courses, but making an appeal succeed takes a lot of work and a lot of thinking. There are many steps to complete, and you only have 20 working days to finish them in. Now, RUSU's got some resources to help you on our website, and these include a step-by-step guide to the appeal process and links to the most important policies. We can help you with your appeal, but there are many students who need our help. So it's best if you can do a lot of the thinking and explaining so that we can easily help make a really big difference to your appeal. Most people who ask for our help are already trying to get their lecturer to listen to their appeal. But something's going wrong. The staff you're speaking to are not responding in the way you expected. But so that we're all in the same place, let me explain the process. Appealing at RMIT has 2 stages. Firstly, you must ask for a review of your assessment from your course coordinator. If you can't get a response from them, you can also approach your program coordinator. It's important that you take this step and that you can show that you have, because if you can't show evidence of asking for a review, then you can't go on to the next step. So secondly, if asking for a review hasn't helped you, you do have the right to ask for a formal review of your assessment by the appeals committee in your college. Both these steps have to be completed within 20 working days of publication of the results. So, if the informal stage is incomplete, you can still lodge an appeal. What you need to avoid is going past that deadline. As always at RMIT, when you make a formal appeal, there's a form you have to fill out. But the box on the form where they ask you to explain your appeal is very small, so it also makes really good sense to set out your appeal in a letter. Now, to win an appeal, it is more complicated than just having a meeting and filling out a form. Students have to show that they have evidence. They have to show that they have evidence that they've asked for an informal review, and, most significantly, evidence that your problem meets one of the grounds of appeal. And these grounds are: there's evidence that there's been an error in the calculation of the result. There's evidence that the assessment didn't comply with the description of the assessment or the assessment criteria published in the course guide. There's evidence that the assessment criteria published in the course guide aren't consistent with the requirements of the relevant training package or accredited course if you're a vocational education student. But finally, and most importantly, there's evidence that the assessment didn't comply with the assessment policy or processes or another relevant rule or university policy. Now, when you think about it, just having a meeting with your course coordinator is not going to be enough to give you evidence that you've covered these grounds of appeal. Here's another problem. Students and lecturers think and talk about assessment based on what they see and put most of their time into. So for an academic, they think about the design of assessment, lecturing, and grading. For you as a student, you're most likely to be thinking about how much work you did and the grade you got. But this leads to 2 of the most unhelpful statements at RMIT. I worked hard but failed. My lecturer's a harsh marker. Which often gets met with, it was all in the lectures. If you wanted to do better, you should have worked harder. So students and lecturers use similar language, but in a way which just causes a roadblock. So here's how you move past that. If you look at the appeal grounds and you put them next to the official RMIT assessment processes, which are roughly 34 pages of detail about every step required under the assessment policy, what you'll notice is something really important. It's RMIT University who offers your degree. And at the bottom of it, in RMIT University's eyes, it's not so much your mark as it is RMIT University's measurement of your performance. And this performance is measured against the standard for your degree. It's measured within the learning outcomes of the course, not outside them. And it's measured by RMIT University's expert in the area, your course coordinator. And there's more. This measurement isn't personal, and it happens within a system. Assessment in each course is actively checked and reviewed by an expert panel. Now, this happens before assessments are given to students, and then it happens after marking. So the idea is that everybody's being marked in the same way, and as part of the process, fails have already been remarked. And this leads me to observe that if you ask to be marked again, you shouldn't be surprised that the grade won't change, because that's what RMIT University's system is meant to achieve: consistency. Now, it's this focus on process that gives RMIT University confidence that its grades are accurate and fair. So, whatever you might think's happening within the informal review, what you learn when you look at the rules is that it's RMIT University that changes grades, not course coordinators. It's not discretionary, it's based on proof of a problem. Also, and this is very important, RMIT actually thinks about assessment in a very different way to the conversations you've probably had with your course coordinator. So for RMIT University, assessment is an important part of a quality controlled process. Now, logically, if the process wasn't followed, then the measurement won't be accurate. Then you start getting into grounds where the university may have to make some change. So you think back to those appeal grounds. A simple description of your problem that you started with doesn't have enough information to really meet those grounds of appeal, certainly not enough to demonstrate that there's evidence that the problem does. You have to translate your problem into the language of policy and processes for RMIT University to actually understand it. But look, if it's RMIT University which changes grades, then it's wise for you to also carefully think about how to explain your problem so that RMIT University will see it as their problem. Think about this as showing that the process of your assessment has not met an acceptable minimum standard. If you can get to this, then you've got a really good chance of getting RMIT University's help with the issue. Now, look, this all sounds hard, and it can be, but it's the secret to winning appeals. Now, there's good news. RMIT's assessment policy and some parts of its assessment processes, particularly the ones about group work, are actually quite student-friendly. So when you look at the assessment policy, you'll see that yes, assessment is measurement, but there are very clear things which have to be done for the measurement to be acceptable to RMIT University. So there must be, according to the policy, a clear focus in assessment on the learning outcomes of the course, detailed information about the timing and requirements of assessment, timely feedback, which helps to guide your learning and your performance, so it tells you how to improve. Assessment should also be to the same standard across but different classes and in the same basic way. It needs to be culturally inclusive, and it must occur within a supportive environment. So it needs to at least allow for extensions, special consideration, and the needs of students with disabilities and other exceptional circumstances. But a supportive environment also means things like making sure that lectures and course content can be accessed in different ways, that things don't just work around insider knowledge for one group. And then policy clearly actually states the final goal. It's to enable students to demonstrate their learning in order to support their progress through their qualification and into their careers after graduation. Now, quoting that is not enough to guarantee a pass, but it is a good start. And so how do you make university policy work for you? Okay. Number one, forget about the final grading as the issue. Think back to what was the root cause of your problem. Ask yourself, well, was it clear that what you actually needed to do in the assessment? Was I given feedback about my performance in time to make important changes? And did the feedback guide me about how to improve? Was feedback given in a way which was useful and actually let you reflect on it? Think also about what happened around your assessment. Was it or teaching disrupted or affected by any unplanned circumstances? Well, what were the consequences of that? And think about whether there was enough support, guidance, and if needed, interventions in external assessments, or in assessments like group work, where your performance depended on others. Now, when you've found a problem in the process of assessment, so the process, not the final result, then, and only then, is it time to link this to the actual problem in your performance and your grade. So start with a problem and then work forward through the subject to the end point. Don't start with the end point. Yeah, this is work. And yeah, to be understood by RMIT University, you will need a detailed written explanation of this. But it is worth the time to do this now, because once you've submitted a formal appeal, it starts to become too late to give more detail, and the university considers itself to be quite reasonably able to look at your appeal on paper and make a decision about it. So the truth is, many formal appeals are rejected by the colleges because they don't meet the grounds of appeal. And this happens when your case is not clear or just can't be explained away as not being RMIT's fault. Let's be clear though, right? There are actually many times when a student fails or performs badly because of personal circumstances. RUSU can help with this as well, but this is most likely to be about special consideration, not an assessment appeal, because that, again, is really about accuracy of measurement. So if you think back and realise that the cause of your problem was something in your life or health, especially your mental health, don't give up, because RUSU can help you. But don't make the mistake of calling it an appeal, because you're unlikely to be listened to. Now, RUSU is serious about trying to get RMIT to listen to student problems. Okay? If you come to me or my colleagues with a reasonably clear written description of a problem in the process of your assessment that's led to a poor grade, there's a very good chance I can help you get RMIT to listen to it. But there is a partnership needed. We know a lot about RMIT's policy and how to phrase issues. We can also help make sure that your language and explanation are clear. But we don't know what happened in your course, study and assessment. And to convince RMIT, this has to be explained in quite a lot of detail, so that somebody who wasn't there can understand what happened and be empowered to actually intervene. Now, only you know that background information, so only you can set it out on paper. It doesn't matter if your grammar isn't perfect or if your language isn't beautiful. We can help you fix that. But we can't explain the importance of a problem we don't know about or which is only mentioned briefly. So, to summarise, here's what you should do. Number one, read the assessment policy. it really is your friend. Explain how your case meets the grounds of appeal. Put it all into writing. If you didn't address the grounds of appeal in the informal stage, it's still not too late to write back to your school, even if you're at the point where you also need to lodge a formal appeal. Don't personalise your case. Think about and talk about process, not about the judgments made by teaching staff, because RMIT respects them as the experts in the area. Now, when your case is clear, raise it to the head of school and then the college. They're the people who actually have to balance between running courses and being accountable to RMIT University for how they've been run, so for following its rules. Make sure your explanation is complete and explain how things fit together so that people who weren't involved can process the issue and don't have to go back to the course staff to explain it all to them. Do get a help, but get it when it's most useful. And this is usually when you thought through your case and put it into writing so that we've really got something to get our teeth into. Make sure you use the resources on our website. They're there to help you. And finally, and most importantly, please do not ignore or miss that deadline because you'll lose your chance to have your case considered. Thanks for listening, everyone.